So should you buy a new construction home or avoid it at all costs? Well, the answer, it may just surprise you. So stick around to the end because there's some important information that you need to know. So what are the pros of new construction homes? Well, the first thing that often people think about is the modern design. If we look at some of the new construction around Healdsburg at places like, Montage or Mill District, and even the game-changing $10.5 million new build at 428 University Street, the common theme is the modern design. There's no question that one of the biggest attractions for new construction, certainly for a lot of people, is the modern aesthetic. The next thing to talk about is the floor plan. Alongside the aesthetic comes a contemporary floor plan. If we look at a home built in, say, the early 1900s versus a home built today, the proportions of the rooms, they're just very different. I mean, we can see that in many of the Victorian homes in downtown Healdsburg. New construction homes will often have, 60-foot great rooms with 12-foot ceilings, giving a real sense of space. Not to say a modern home can't have lots of different rooms, but generally there'll be a more open flow to a new construction home. The next thing to talk about are lower maintenance costs. I mean, it's stating the obvious, but there'll inevitably be less maintenance with a new build home. There are no major deferred maintenance items that you get on an older home. For example, if you buy a home with a roof that was put on 15 years ago and stay there, say, for 5 years, the chances are you'll need to replace the roof, it's a big cost over a 5-year period. The good thing about new construction is that the condition of the house it's entirely down to you. If you look after it from when you move in on day one, you'll not have any problems. However, if you're the type of owner who really doesn't carry out any of the basic maintenance, you can expect problems down the road if you stay there for, say, 10 years. In that sense, you make your own bed with new construction maintenance costs. The next thing to talk about are warranties. In California, there's a standard 10-year warranty that will cover the structural integrity of the home. Aside from the 10-year warranty, there will also be, a 12-month warranty whereby the contractor will come back at the end of the first year to clean up any items that have come to light. For example, if there are a few surface cracks in the walls due to settling, they'll repair them and paint over them. In addition to that, there will generally be a 3- and 5-year warranty for other systems within the home, covering plumbing, electrical, as well as the heating and air conditioning. The next thing to talk about in new construction homes is like the smart tech in them. If you are into gadgets, then it's likely a high-end new home will come with lots of bells and whistles that will appeal. Everything from an iPad to control all of the blinds, the heating, cooling, sound system, to an irrigation system that's connected to the local weather service. Perhaps more important than that is the fact that the home will have been pre-wired for fibre and will likely, if it's a high-end home, have speakers pre-wired into the ceiling for in-room audio. I mean, when I remodel any home that involves opening up the walls, I'll always install wall speakers. I mean, it's definitely a luxury, but I think once you've had it, it's really hard to go back. The next thing is the sustainability of new construction. If sustainability is important to you, then a new construction home will always be more energy efficient. While your home may not be entirely electric, it will likely have electric heating and an electric water heater, and in some cities, it'll be required to have solar. If you want to know more about sustainability of homes, I've got a video about how gas is being phased out in homes in California, so take a look at that. I've talked about the pros of new construction, but what are the cons? Well, the first thing is price. There's no question you'll pay more. On lower end new construction, you will likely pay 10% more and as much as 20% more on higher end new construction. If I use the example of 428 University, which is a $10.5 million new construction home in Healdsburg, you could argue that the price premium is probably 100%, given it's twice as expensive as anything of a similar size that has ever been sold before. Of course, it's only a premium once somebody actually pays that price for it, so let's wait and see. The next con to talk about is the resale price. One of the challenges of buying new construction in a place like Mill District is that this project is being built over a 10-year period. So if you buy one of the properties, say in the first phase, and look to sell it 5 years down the line, the chances are you'll be competing with the developers trying to sell the latest phase of the project. Not only will you be competing with their inventory, but you'll be selling a used home compared to their shiny new model. And the other con is potentially construction noise. With a big development, such as Mill District or Montage, there will likely be construction taking place for the next 5+ years. So you need to get used to a certain amount of disruption. If you are looking at buying a one-off new home being built by a spec builder, then this is clearly not a problem. The next con is probably mature landscaping or lack of it. It's easy for a builder to create a well-landscaped yard with grass, plants, beds, etc. But it's a lot harder to create an outdoor space that feels like it's been there for years and has got a more mature feel. Of course, if the budget is unlimited, then a builder can buy some mature trees, but it will never replicate the feel of a yard with mature trees that have been there for years. That being said, I was lucky enough to represent the sale of a development in Healdsburg called River House, which was a high-end development of 8 homes. On this project, the developer went to huge lengths to preserve some of the mature redwoods and fruit trees, which made a huge difference to the overall feel of the development. Well, let's talk about the location. As with any real estate purchase, the location is key. Regardless of the aesthetic of the home, the location of any new construction is almost more important because by its very nature, you'll be taking a bit of a gamble on an area that's not yet established. If we think about the most recent construction in Healdsburg, such as a Mill District or Montage, and the River House development down by the river, they've all got their challenges. For example, Mill District often, gets a hard time for selling $5 million homes next door to McDonald's. This is true of regular homes as well. Location is key. It's no different with new construction. The next thing to talk about is the local neighbourhood. If we think about Arden, the new construction that was finished last year on the north edge of the city, it doesn't really have any amenities close by, so at least people buying there knew what they were buying into. If we take Mill District or the new development at North Village, for example, there are going to be a whole bunch of new retail units close to both of these developments, but there's no knowing in advance, what they will be and if the new restaurant is going to be any good. It's always good to know what's planned for an area for the next few years because it could make a real difference to the neighbourhood over the longer term. And so let's talk about the community. Again, the feel of a place like Mill District, Arden or River House is all about the people, which is not something that can be manufactured. River House is a great example where creating that sense of community was very intentional from the get-go. This development was deliberately designed to create that sense of community with, for example, Dutch doors to make it easy for people to, interact when they're in each other's houses. They also very intentionally put the garages to the side so that people had to walk past each other on the way from the car to the houses. And what's even more impressive with this development, just talking to people who live there, it really did work. And the next thing to talk about when it comes to new construction is, the overall infrastructure. When you build new construction at the scale of something like Mill District or Montage or North Village, there are bound to be consequences given the increased number of people and cars in an area. While managing these increases is all part of the planning process, the truth is, you never know what it's going to feel like if the increase in cars is going to cause traffic issues or unintended consequences elsewhere. When you buy a single home new build, such as the $10.5 million new home on University Street, there is no new infrastructure, but what a lot of people don't realise who are not from the area is that University is the cut-through street in town to get from the north side to the south side, which is why so many people were surprised to see a spec build of this nature in that location. If you're from out of the area and are working with a realtor from out of the area, you may never know that. So is new construction worth it, or should you steer clear? At first glance, you would assume that buying new construction would be the best option every time. However, you will pay a significant premium, 10% or even 20% at the higher end, and the capital appreciation is often a lot less certain, especially in a development like Mill District or Montage, where if you sell, you'll likely be competing with new inventory for the first few years. In addition, if it is a development that is being built over 5 years or longer, you'll likely be living among construction for the first few years. You might get lucky and the neighbourhood evolves in the way that you had imagined, but it may not. At least buying into an established neighbourhood, you know exactly what you're buying into. Don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan of some of the modern new builds, in and around Healdsburg, but there's a lot more uncertainty than buying something like 428 University, a new build in an established neighbourhood. You could argue that building that home on a street like University was the wrong location. But at least you know what you're getting from the get-go. So I get calls all the time from people looking at their options for buying a home, whether it's a new build or an established home in Healdsburg or Santa Rosa and around Sonoma County. So reach out to me if you are looking at buying in and around the Healdsburg, Windsor or Santa Rosa area, or would like to know more. My number's in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, I'm sure you'll love the next one on screen right. Now thanks for watching. Until the next time, go well.